All right, so we can save ourselves a little bit of time unless someone has any important messages to deliver. We can begin 5 minutes early, maybe leave 5 minutes earlier. So let's get this party on the road. Toastmasters organization focuses on many things, including time management and a number of other areas. And it's a matter of team process. Participants in the team include the following. First, the timer. Hector, tell us about what the timer does.
Thank you very much, Andy. What I do is help our speakers, whether it's a prepared speaker, table topics, or an evaluator, keep track of their time so they can be brief and be great. I will be using my background to indicate when you are approaching the minimum time of your speech, which is the green background. After that, it comes a yellow background letting you know you better start to wrap up, and then red background, you just have about 30 seconds to finish, depending on the length of your speech. Your speech usually 5 to 7, it will be 5 on the green, yellow on the number 6, number 7, 7 minutes, it will be the red. In table topics, it will be 1 minute, 1.5, and 2. And in evaluations, 2 minutes, 2.5, and 3. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much, Hector. We have the monitoring of our verbal speech. Andre, can you tell us what the counter does?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the evening, Andrew. Andrew Smolenko, and my role today is counter. Counter's role is very, very important, in my view, largely underestimated in many clubs, however, not online presenters. And my job is to listen carefully to so-called crutch words. For example, you know, ha, well, and so on. I will be keeping a track records of all those so-called inappropriate words, and I will report at the end of the meeting. So watch out. Back to you, Toastmaster Evelyn.
Okay, fantastic. Jim Barber is our grammarian. Jim, tell us what the grammarian does.
With pleasure, Mr. Toastmaster. Andre just described that as the counter, he's going to be listening to for filled pauses and crutch words. I am going to be listening for everything else, everything that's between the ahs, the ums, the ers, the other filled pauses. Basically, I'm going to be listening for exceptional or egregious uses of the English language. I'll make a note of any that I happen to hear, and I'll report at the end of the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Fantastic. Next, we have Donna filling in for the chat monitor. Tell us what the chat monitor does.
Mr. Toastmaster, ladies and gentlemen, as you speak today, I just want you to relax because the audience will share their views. At the end of the meeting, I'm going to share some of those exciting things that they said while the speakers were speaking. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Donna. We have as a watcher, Imogen. Tell us what the watcher watches.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster of the day, for this position. My role is today is the watcher. I am watching everybody on the video screen, and I'm watching what they're doing, how they're posturing, how they're presenting themselves, how they're looking. So I will present my report at the end of the session. So over back to the Toastmaster of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for those that haven't pulled out your schedule recently, I just wanted to call your attention that Graham is going to be doing a 10 to 12 minute speech. He's taking up positions 2 and 3, just to let you all be aware of that. Now that everybody's been introduced and the team's been introduced, I want to introduce our first speaker, which is Evelyn Young, and she is doing You Are Wise, Presentation Mastery Level 1, Mastering Fundamentals, Writing a Speech with Purpose. Go ahead. Ervlyn?
When I was 6, my mother signed me up for a flute lesson. It was a private music tutorial for 20 students. A few months later, my 19 classmates were able to blow beautiful melodies out of their flutes. I was special. My flute sounded like the whistles of referees in soccer games. Short squeaks, void of melodies. My teacher encouraged me to work harder. Eve, work harder. I know you will make it, but don't know when. I was working really hard on it from Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and 2 months later, my flute sounded like the whistle of steam trains with long hiss, but tuneless. There you go. A class of 20, you got 19 novice flute players and 1 whistleblower. As I wanted to give up, my mother said, yeah, give it up. Don't waste time on things that you have 0 talents in. Focus on your strengths. Focus on my strengths? Yeah, you are wise, Mom. The next day, I went in to quit my flute class. Shortly after I liberated myself from the flute lesson, my primary school made singing a compulsory subject. In a singing test, I sang the majority of the notes wrong, and a few students began to giggle. Feeling embarrassed, I tried to avoid eye contact with the audience. And I stopped singing, began reading out loud the rest of the lyrics, somewhat like this. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. I meant to stifle the giggles, but I only made things worse. Now the whole class burst into laughter. Even the teacher was laughing at me loud as she evaluated my performance. She was kind of, well, the poetry you read was fine, but this is a singing class. This was like the evaluator of an icebreaker speech laughing at the speaker, telling her how horrible she was and how she sounded like a roaring factory machine. I went home down and low as I told my mother what I had been through. My mother put her consoling arm around me. Surprisingly, she said, "Oh, you cracked the whole class up. You brought laughter to everybody. That's cool. If you can't become a singer, being a stand-up comedian is not bad at all." Suddenly, I was lightened up by my mother. Yeah, she was right. The next day, I went to school feeling so good about myself. Just a little change in my viewpoint makes such a huge difference in the whole experience. You are wise, Mom. I winked at my mom in admiration. My teachers were all college graduates. My mother did not even get a chance to get to college. But often I found that my mom was wiser than the teachers. It suddenly dawned on me that the amount of wisdoms is not to be measured by the level of one's education. Wisdom is more about reflection on life and less about the amount of knowledge acquired. Recently, my mother thought that I have been too harsh on myself on dieting. So she embarked upon a journey to lure me into eating more calories. Once I refused to eat the coconut chicken curry that she made for dinner. And she said, "This was a freshly slaughtered chicken and I spent hours preparing for it. Now you wouldn't take a single bite. That's so unfair to the chicken. I took a little glance at my mom and at the chicken which sacrificed its life for our meal and decided to apologize to the chicken. My mom's trick failed, but she wouldn't give up. The next day, as I was exercising, along with a workout video on a big TV screen, she came in with a lot of snacks. She sat down on the sofa next to me and began eating. 15 minutes later, I fell for them. We ended up sitting together, savoring the snacks as we watched the workout video as if we were watching a Hollywood blockbuster. Later on, my mother told me the whole point about this is to remind me that I need to reward myself periodically in order to accomplish more. She was right. After eating some snacks that day, I did not put on any weight. And I even feel more motivated to accomplish my fitness goal. After my college graduation, I sometimes believe that I am in a way wiser than my mother and forget that wisdom, that education does not equal wisdom, that education might boost the level of one's wisdom, but it does not equal wisdom because wisdom is more about reflection in life. Mom, you are wise. Can I be as wise as you? My mother smiled in pride. I know you can, but don't know when. Back to Toastmaster.
Excellent speech. You are wise. For those that forgot or want to remember, it's always best to take the hand and move your timer into the top left corner. And in that way, you always know where the timer is and you can see it whether you're looking at it in gallery view or regular view. At this point in time, it brings me to introduce Graham's presentation, which is a 10 to 12-minute speech. And let me give you his introduction. Graham Cairns today completes his strategic relationship path with reflection on what he has learned. And what he has learned above all is that we shouldn't be constrained by misconceptions, with a speech entitled Strategic Relationships, not as icky as it sounds, for a period of 10 to 12 minutes. Graham Cairns, go ahead. And after your speech, I'll call on the timer to give us the timing for both speeches.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and we're all Toastmasters here, whether current members or previous. As you may be aware, there are 11 different pathways in Toastmasters. And they are nearly all what it says on the tin. For example, my first path was effective coaching. And in that path, I was to develop skills as a coach, as a mentor, as somebody who helps lead others to learn. Yeah, pretty sensible. The second path I did was presentation mastery. We all know what presentation mastery is about. That's in fact why most people join Toastmasters, because they want to improve their presentation skills. There are other paths like the relatively new engaging humor, about using humor in our presentations and engaging with our audience by doing it. There are leadership paths like leadership development. Again, says on the tin what it is. Motivational strategies was a path that I really enjoyed doing because motivating people is something that I like to do and something that I aspire to do as a professional speaker. But there was one path that I looked at and, well, to be quite honest, I frankly avoided doing it for a while. Strategic relationships. Strategic relationships? How icky is that? relationships shouldn't be about strategy. We shouldn't be strategizing our relationships. We shouldn't be working out what can I get from this other person in return for what I'm giving them. That's not how relationships should work. But there was a particular project in strategic relationships, which I which I needed to do. And that is the project about networking, how to effectively network without it being transactional, how it could work. And so I thought, I'm going to do this. And you know something? I discovered that it is in fact a misnomer. Strategic relationships as a path is about how to develop relationships, not how to strategize those. So what have I learned over the year and a half that it's taken me to complete this path? Now, I say a year and a half because this path has taken me quite some time to do. You're currently seeing, I believe, the spreadsheet which has my personal speech timetable. And you can see that this particular path, strategic relationship, I started in June 2020. We're now at the end of 2021. It's taken me almost 18 months to do it. And as I say, I particularly wanted to do the cross-cultural speech, which is it is only offered in strategic relationships. And I wanted to learn about networking. So I decided to start doing this. And what did I learn? Well, level 1 of this path, as is the case with virtually every path, is all about foundational material, doing your icebreaker, introducing yourself or an aspect of yourself to your club. It's about giving a speech, getting evaluated, and then redoing that speech or another speech, but using the advice which you're given. Now, level 1 has changed, as we have seen. Ervlyn tonight gave a speech from the new level 1, which is writing a speech in earnest, effectively, learning how to write a speech, learning what to do in a speech. But in the old level 1, it was research and present, which I really loved as a speech. So I learned lots about relationships when I did that particular speech. I did some research into how relationships are formed, how relationships are nurtured, how relationships are kept together. And so I was actually learning something in this. Then I went to level 2. Level 2, my leadership style, my communication style, and mentoring. No, not in this particular path. No, in this particular path, and it's worth looking at this, there's the leadership style. And yeah, I must admit, I'm getting sick of doing my leadership style because I've done it a number of times. But there's also cross-cultural, how to develop cross-cultural relationships, because it's interesting to note in an organization like Toastmasters, which is international, and in the current environment where we are all very often meeting online, there are different cultural experiences that we share. I remember in this particular club, I gave a speech in which I unwittingly, inadvertently, and horrifyingly quite insulted one of the members. She is no longer a member of this club, and I've wondered over the years whether in fact my speech helped make her feel sufficiently uncomfortable that she left this club. Stayed with Toastmasters though, I'm glad for that. So learning about the different cultural things that we need to do, I thought was particularly useful in this path. The third level of the path was interesting. In that one, we moved on to networking, which, as I say, is something that I really wanted to learn how to do, because you ever been to a networking function where there are just people handing out business cards like they've had 100 of them printed and they're going to give them away they're going to give these away at this meeting no matter what? That's not how to network. That's, I don't know what that is. Well, actually, I do have a word for what that is, but I'm not going to use it. But quite frankly, I wanted to know how to network, how to develop those relationships at that sort of event, because I'm actually not really comfortable with that sort of event. I'm, like a lot of people, an introverted extrovert. That is, I'm actually quite introverted, but I project this image of being an extrovert to compensate. So I needed to know how to do networking. And I thought that was a particularly useful project to do. Using descriptive language, yeah, now this is something that I do for a living. I use descriptive language. So it wasn't a real challenge, but I like to do it. Preparing for an interview. Now, most people, when they get to the prepare for an interview project, think, oh, I'm going to prepare for a job interview, because that's the interview that you're most likely to get. But in fact, there are other interviews that you might like to prepare for as well. You might like to prepare to be interviewed in a media sense. If you are an expert in a field and you want to get your expertise out there, you want your demonstrated expertise out there, you want people to think of you as the person that they should go to when they want to learn about your area of expertise, then interviews are really important. So don't think this is just about learning what to do and what not to do in a job interview. It's what to do and what not to do in any sort of interview. And it's really important when you're talking about developing relationships that you learn how to project the best version of yourself. Public relations strategies was one project that I really enjoyed. In this one, you have to develop a PR strategy for an organization. Nearly always Toastmasters, because that's the one that we're all sharing, but it's a really good way to learn what works and what doesn't. Running a Q&A session. Who here has run a Q&A session? In Toastmasters? Outside of Toastmasters? I see there are a few of us who have. It's actually much more challenging than you would think. And so this is a really good project to learn what to do and what not to do before you get to that point. Leading in a volunteer organization is something that all of us who have a club executive or area or division or district roles do. And then there's the moderating a panel discussion. That's slightly different to a Q&A session. We often think of them as being the same thing, but they're not. And so these are some of the things that I was learning all the way through this project. But how was I learning those? What were the learning strategies that I used in this? And normally it says, please do not turn this into a project that tells you how the project works, but I'm going to do that anyway. These are what you get when you do the motivational strategy, strategic relationships path, the list of the competencies you get. And some of those competencies that you get are developed by using your Toastmasters journey form. This is a really useful form. It asks you to list your accomplishments in Toastmasters. Now, the reason that it uses Toastmasters as an example is because if you can use this as an example, you can compare this to other things in your life, but you list what you have accomplished. What have you achieved during this path? What have you achieved during your time in Toastmasters? List your achievement outside of Toastmasters, and particularly the things that you have learned in your path that you are learning and putting into place outside. Like, for example, how to network effectively, how to not make those cross-cultural faux pas that we would do otherwise if we're not thinking about it. Reflect on how much you have learned and gained, describe the impact of being a Toastmaster and how it has affected your entire life, and then think about your next steps, including setting new goals. Now, what's important about all of those is that once you actually put those down, I find that once you actually physically write something out, and quite frankly, I would suggest writing by handwriting rather than by typing, because we actually learn better that way, then you begin to crystallize the lessons that you are learning. You think about, what have I learned? What is the advice that I would give a new Toastmaster who is joining, who is trying to develop these strategic relationships, this relationship advice, the obstacles that you faced and how you overcome them? Then, of course, at the end of all of that process, you do what I'm doing now, and you present a speech which says, these are the things that I have learned. Well, so what are the things that I have learned? One, that relationships have to be worked on. They don't just happen. Two, that networking events are not as terrifying as I thought. If I am willing to offer something of myself, then others will be willing to offer of themselves back to me. It is, whether we like it or not, transactional. And 3, that we shouldn't get hung up on titles. I thought that the very title of this project was, as I say, icky, that I thought it was all about trying to turn relationships into a strategic goal. But no, as with everything, it is about learning. And so long as we continue to learn, so long as we continue to grow, so long as we continue to be willing to say to ourselves, that I did well, this I can work on, then we will continue to grow, not just as Toastmasters, but as people. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Graham. Mr. Timer, how did our 2 speakers do?
Both speakers qualified. I will be putting on the chat the exact timing, but both of them did well within their time frames.
Wonderful. Next on our program is Topic Master. Topic Master is the individual that leads our discussion in presenting topics and questions with a time frame of 1 to 2 minutes. That Hector, tell us a little bit about the time framing for Topic Master.
Certainly, for Topic Master, the goal is to speak for at least 1 minute, a mini speech. And the maximum allotted time is 2 minutes with the tolerance that we have in Toastmasters. So I will be using, again, my background. I will be using green at 1 minute, 1.5 the yellow, 2 minutes the red, to indicate you're about to run out of time. Thank you. Back to you.
Okay. I now turn the program over to our excellent Topic Master leader, Jim Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. For our table topic session tonight, normally it would be a thing of primarily calling on those people who don't have roles. However, since almost everybody has a role tonight, I can warn you in advance, some of you are going to be victims. Before we get started, though, let me describe very briefly the theme. The theme is a simple one: choices. I'm going to present you with a choice. For example, I might ask you up or down. You can comment anything that you want to on that. You can talk about up, you can talk about down, you can talk about directions. Really doesn't matter. Just use this as a springboard to go in a different direction. Now, before I get started, let me check and see if Lee Zing is here. Lee Zing, are you? I see your picture, but there's no video. So then, not knowing if she's here or not, she gets a pat. Ah, she is there. Hi, okay, cool. Then you might have guessed you're going to be my lead off table topics victim this evening. Your choice is sunrise or sunset.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topic Master. I choose sunset. There are certainly both sunrise and the sunset are most beautiful things in nature. But why I choose sunset, because sunset seems to me is more relaxed and it's towards the end of the day. And after a whole day of work, of excitement, I feel like do nothing mode and just sit to watch the sunset. The beautiful sky feels so relaxed. That's number one. And number two, in our Chinese culture, when we talk about sunset, we actually meant to analogical to people getting old age. It's so beautiful, but sadly, it's going down. Back to you, Mr. Table Topic Master.
Thank you, Lee Sing. All right. Our second victim, our second topic rather, I'll tell you the victim in a moment, is, well, no, I'll tell you who the victim is because I want to check and see. Kimberly, you are a guest, so technically you can decline to participate if you want to. However, I'll ask, would you like to participate?
I will.
Okay, I don't want to scare you off from being a member. Cool. All right then. Kimberly, your question, your choice is read a book or watch a movie.
Oh, this is so easy. From the time I was a child, it's been reading books. I escaped from the outside world just by reading books. I didn't know what was going on around me because I was in another world. I was all over the country in different places at different times. It was my place that I was just happy and at peace. I would close my door, kick my sister out of the room, and I would read books all weekend long. And I still carry that to this day. I love reading books. They help me grow. The books have gotten a little thicker now, but I definitely love to read books. I don't like television. Television can be toxic. So I just stick to my books. I love the characters and I love to jump in those roles. Books are my favorite.
Thank you very much, Kimberly. All right. Diversity. I want to spread things out, and I've called on 2 members of the female gender. So let me, this is a clue. Let me move towards a member of the male participation part of online presenters. And let's ask Imtaman, boat or airplane?
Thank you very much, Toastmaster. I like aeroplane. The reason why I like aeroplane is that because I want to reach other places in a shorter time. And also I want to like to go above the clouds and see the whole city from the top view, because it gives me a feeling that I am a superior one and I can see the whole world under me. So it gives me a feeling of superiority. And also it's my dream to become a fighter jet pilot, but I cannot become. I become engineer. So this is linked with my desire to be flying in the aeroplane. So over to you, or back to you, Toastmaster today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Imtaman. All right. I have a feeling I know what the answer is going to be to this particular choice, given this particular person, but I'm going to ask anyway. Mountains or beach? Mountains or beach? Pamela.
You knew what I would say, Jim, did you?
I think
What
so.
would I say? Tell me, Jim, what would I say? Mountains or beach? This has been a no-brainer. I love mountains. Now, I have lived in a very flat part of the world. I came from a very flat part of the world. I came from the prairie. The prairie is very big in the United States. So if you come from the prairie and everything is flat and open, you really love the mountains. The first time I went skiing in the mountains was when my girlfriend asked me to go with her and a group of her friends to go to Vail. They had gotten a home or something at the bottom of the hill, and all I had to pitch in was a couple $100 and I could do this luxurious vacation. It was interesting, but one thing I really, really found that I loved being in the mountains. And I think I skied more than the entire group put together. And if camera phones had been small enough to fit in my jacket at that time, I would have taken more pictures than I ever do when I run, because I'm a picture maniac. I take pictures of sunsets. I have a blog about sunsets. And I think I have 3 people that read it. But if I lived in the mountains, I would have a mountain sunset blog, and I know I would have thousands. I would be one of the top bloggers in WordPress. So it's definitely mountains for me. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Pamela. And I must admit, you surprised me. I thought you were going to answer beach. So that's the fun part about this. I learned something. Thank you. All right. Sticking sort of in that theme, summer or winter? Summer or winter? April, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Table Topic Master. Definitely summer. I love summer because I love the beach. I love all things beach, the water. I love the weather. The winter is not my speed. My oldest daughter lives in North Dakota. She just left she spent Thanksgiving with us, and she flew back a couple of days ago, and she got snowed in Minneapolis, in which she had to spend a night in the Minneapolis airport because her flight was canceled. So that's another reason why I would never live up north to risk that ever happening to me. So definitely summer will always be my choice. And hopefully one day, I'm trying to convince my husband, maybe within the next 15 years, my goal is to retire in Florida, in which I want to live in the villages. That's my lifelong goal of mine, is retiring in the state of Florida, because I do not ever want to see a winter if that's a goal of mine. So I'm okay with never seeing snow. Thank you, Table Topic Master.
Thank you, April. I moved to Florida 40 years ago, and I got to tell you, yep, I agree with you. All right, let's get philosophical. Ooh, I like this. Okay. Learning or teaching? Learning or teaching? Andre. Yeah, you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Table Topics Master. I would be lying if I said you caught me off guard, because someone who's in philosophical state of mind and reading your posts on Facebook, which are full of philosophy. If anyone in this club could look at Jim Barber personal profile page, most of the posts are jewels of philosophy with exquisite sense of humor. And I learned quite a few sense of humor tricks from Jim Barber. And that would really, really help me to answer the question about learning or teaching. I would say a bit of both. A bit of both with my son. I could be a really good teacher, or I would think so. I could be a learner with my 14-year-old daughter who comes back from school and using all those new terms. Well, you know what, it's what we've heard. With my business partners, I would probably play a bit of both as well. Overall, having a good sense of humor and reading Jim Barber's personal Facebook page will help you to be not only philosophical, but answer quite exquisite questions in a fashionable manner. It's something that I could probably do. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Andre. Your commission check will be in the mail. Let's go for philosophy again. Oh, I should ask first, Mr. Toastmaster, are we okay on time? I think we're running ahead, but I want to make sure. Can I ask another couple?
Your time is over at 8:37.
All righty, then I've got enough time. Let's do philosophy again. Health or wealth? Health or wealth? Rick.
Good evening, Mr. Table Topics Master. Health or wealth? I personally find that the Dalai Lama put this in extremely well. I cannot quote him exactly, but he basically said that man tends to chase wealth at the expense of his health, and then tries to spend that wealth to recover their health. In my mind, that makes the answer simple, because wealth is not what we all tend to think of it as. It's really ephemeral. It's not real. I mean, it's ones and zeros and computers. Come on, it's not real. Does it buy you things? Sure. But what I found in my personal life is the things that you don't buy are far more valuable. I can tell a simple story of an aunt of mine who's passed, but that's beside the point. She never had 2 nickels, 2 euros, 2 pennies to rub together. She lived in a simple house, but I can tell you she raised 3 absolutely beautiful children, and it was her table that I preferred to have my feet under. That is why wealth really doesn't matter. It's what we put into this world that matters far more than all the money that you can collect. And you can really enjoy those simple things if you're simply healthy. Health over wealth. Mr. Toaster, Table Topics.
Thank you, Rick. Well said. And now let's close it out on a Toastmasters note. The choice is online or brick and mortar. Online or brick and mortar. David.
I believe the improv answer would be yes and, right? So am I allowed to do yes and? I mean, obviously, I have a love
Absolutely.
for I have a love for the online. That is, why this club got rolling, why I wanted to be the instigator of it. Many other people have carried the ball, but I miss my in-person club. In-person is going to turn into hybrid because my in-person brick and mortar club wound up accepting members who don't live in our driving distance of our facility. So we're going to be hybrid at some point. But getting back to being in person, getting back to laughter and applause in the room is definitely a big desire of mine. It's something that I have missed over the past year. It is something that we try and find ways of bringing into this club, into this experience. And I think we do pretty well, but it's not quite the same. And it's probably not going to be quite the same until maybe we all have digital contact lenses and digital things wired into the back of our heads so that we really feel like we're in the room together without wearing some clunky headgear thing with video lenses inside of it. I'm doing some research on the metaverse right now, and I am not sold. But in person actually is my answer, is the thing that I am missing right now, and looking forward to getting back to doing more of. Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you, David. Mr. Timer, Hector, could you please tell us how everybody did tonight?
Everybody did fantastic and stay well within the boundaries of the table topics. So everybody's qualified for the vote.
Outstanding. Thank you, sir. Would you please cast your votes for your favorite table topics presenter? And I happily return control back to our Toastmaster of the day, Andy Byrne.
Thank you very much, Jim. Mr. Ballot Counter, did you put the link for the voting in there? Yeah, I see it now.
I have for the best speaker as well. So if everybody doesn't have it, I'll put the best speaker out there again as well.
All right. I'll give everybody about 15 seconds to review what we have and identify the best speakers for table topics, and the best speaker is there. Okay.
Andy, if you'd like me to review very quickly while people are casting their votes in not in the order that I asked. David, I asked online or brick and mortar. Rick, I asked health or wealth. April, I asked summer or winter. Kimberly, I asked read a book or watch a movie. Pamela chose between mountains or beach. Andre chose between learning or teaching. Imtanen spoke on boat or airplane, and Lee Sing spoke on sunrise or sunset.
Thank you very much for your review. Mr. Vote Counter, has everybody submitted their vote? I'll now turn to our general evaluator, Kim Learning. Could you begin this segment, very important segment, about feedback and evaluation? Share with us the segment.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster of the Day, Andy, fellow Toastmasters, and dear guests. As Andy mentioned, my name is Kim Leeming, and I'll be your general evaluator for tonight. What an awesome evening we're having. It's been hectares of fun. We are now entering the educational part of the meeting. A big reason for why online presenters is so successful in transforming speakers into even more confident and competent speakers is the wonderful and actionable feedback each speaker receives from their evaluators. With this feedback, the speakers and everyone else watching can use this input to improve their speaking capabilities and, in turn, bring more value to their audiences. My role is divided into 3 parts. 1 is to introduce the evaluators for the prepared speeches. 2 is to reintroduce tonight's assistants and ask for their respective reports. And finally, 3, I will give my general evaluation of the overall meeting. Before we start with evaluations, could I please ask the timer for today, Hector Cabrera Farhat, to remind us of the timing requirements for the evaluator's speeches. Take it away, Hector.
Thank you very much, Kim. Evaluators are 2 to 3 minutes. I will be using green at 2, 2.5 the yellow, 3 minutes the red. Back to you, Kim.
Thank you, Hector. The first evaluator for tonight is Deborah Carr. She will be evaluating speaker number 1, Evelyn Young. Please welcome Deborah. Oh, by the way, when I asked Deborah what she thought of evaluations, she said that they are valuable for growth. So please welcome Deborah.
Thank you, Kim. Ervlyn, you just did a wonderful, let me get this switched around real quick. I'm sorry, back at gallery. There we go, so I can see her. Ervlyn, you did a great job tonight. I really enjoyed your speech. The speech of you are wise, writing a speech on purpose. What I liked about it is you took the aspects of the topics that you wanted to focus on, and you allowed us to feel that, and also to incorporating your senses. What I felt is that by bringing in the senses, you allowed us to hear the flute that we may or may not, wanted to experience, and or to imagine anyway, the emotions, and especially feeling the feeling of relief when you decided to no longer play music. The other thing is, I love the way that you held the attention of not only mine, but to, as I watched the gallery, that you held the attention of people that, everyone that was here. You shared in the discussion with your mother, and that I liked, with the going back and forth between the two of you. I really enjoyed that. The other thing is, in the end, how you wrapped up your speech with her. You not only introduced her in the beginning of your speech, but you incorporated her with a common thread, and then at the end, you also you finished it with her. I also loved your gestures, and that's one area that I feel you need to work on. And it's not your gestures as much as your webcam, because for me anyway, I don't know if I'm seeing heads nod. So your gestures were blurry. It's either the settings were maybe slower than what your gestures were going to be or whatever, but it's something that I suggest that maybe just record it and practice it so you get used to whatever the setting needs to be, because sometimes we move a little bit too quick and it just doesn't catch up with it. The other thing, excuse me, is there was a couple times that you just paused before you stepped across to your mother. And when you're doing that, you want to make that fluid. Once you got into the speech, you made it real fluid and you went back and forth. It's just one of those hesitations. It's easy to do. And with practice, you'll just, polish that a little bit. The other thing is as you step forward, that when you record yourself to check your webcam, make sure it's not only for your gestures, but with your movements towards the camera, back and forth, so you get all aspects of it, okay? The other thing that I really feel that not only you, but everyone in this club needs to do is have an introduction. And so with that, write an introduction about us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you chose the title, or what your aspects of this is going to be, of your whole speech. You're comfortable in front of the audience. You did great with that. Your talk of interest held us all, I felt. And I also feel that you fulfilled the requirements for tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Our second evaluator today is Angela Heath. She will be evaluating speaker number 2, Graham Cairns. Please welcome Angela.
My fellow Toastmasters and guests, and especially our expert presenter, Mr. Graham. You always amaze me with your speeches. And when you approach this level 5 speech, reflecting on your past and strategic relationships, you took us on a journey where you really had us think about and understand the journey that you've been on. And Graham, I have to tell you, you have convinced me, because a lot of times this pathway, actually, I don't get it. But after I listened to you tonight, I'm thinking to myself, all of these lessons are very valuable. As a speaker, you are superb. I like to refer to you as an expert master of the English language. You have such colorful language when you speak. You took us from icky all the way over to sufficiently uncomfortable. And that kind of mixture of language is what holds us all captive. Your eye contact, I admire it. I am working so hard on mine, and you did such an excellent job. I felt like you were speaking directly to me. Vocal variety, you are smart with your use of pauses. I love it. You are such a perfect speech crafter. There's nothing we could ever say about that. And your use of rhetorical devices, I caught you a couple of times with continue to learn, continue to grow. Now, you told me you wanted me to give you some feedback on your use of your PowerPoints. And you did an excellent job switching between the actual PowerPoint and coming back over to speaker view. However, in terms of recommendations for improvement, it really would have to be your gestures as well as the PowerPoints themselves. So this is what I saw most of the night for you, Graham. Your hands were just right above where the video cut off. So it was small hands. I would love to see you stand when you give your evaluation. I would love to see you full length, at least down to the waist, so that your gestures could be larger and grander. So I would suggest that you would work also on your PowerPoint presentation, because this is what I saw. I couldn't read it. I couldn't understand it. The spreadsheet was so small, it had no relevance to me. But with those minor tweaks, that speech, like every other speech you give here in the club, would fascinate us all and cement what I believe of you as the most expert speaker in the club. Thank you so much, Graham. Congratulations.
Thank you, Angela. And thanks to both you and Deborah for such detailed and valuable feedback. Now, could I please call on our timer, Hector, to give us Evaluators timers report for tonight's evaluations? Take it away, Hector.
Absolutely, Kim. It was a cardiac finale. I saw that watch turning to red, but both of our evaluators made it on time and qualified for a vote. So I'm very excited about that. I'm putting there the results, and it was a pleasure to be your timer today. My name, Hector Cabrera, and I hope that counts for word of the day usage. Back to you.
Thank you, Hector. And yes, your name is the word of the day. In fact, everybody who's mentioned your name, that is the word of the day. So as you heard, both of tonight's evaluators qualified with the timing for their evaluations. So thanks in advance to everyone for casting your votes now for Best Evaluator for tonight's meeting. And if you haven't done so, please also cast your vote for Best Speaker and Best Table Topic. Next, we'll be reintroducing tonight's team of Toastmasters who helped run tonight's meeting so smoothly. They will each give their 1-minute speeches and reports. First up is our counter, Andre Smolenko. Please welcome Andre.
Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator. It's really easy job for me today. I've been listening very carefully to all the speakers and table topics participants as well. What I've noticed, probably because we're advanced club, this is why we make very few errors of speech. However, we can use them masterfully as well. What I'm going to do, I've prepared a screenshot of my carefully taken notes, and I'm going to share the screenshots in the chat. So all the speakers, evaluators would be able to have a look at few areas they could improve. Overall, just the most commonly used scratch words in our club was so and you know. So when you speak in next time, please pay attention to use the word so and you know. Overall, it was easy job for me. We're advanced club. Let's keep on going. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Andre. So, and you know, next up is our grammarian, Jim Barber, with his report. Please welcome Jim.
So, Madam General Evaluator, note to our EVP, I should not take on 2 roles at the same meeting. I don't multitask very well, and so consequently, my grammarian report is not everything that it should be. My apologies to Ervlyn. Ervlyn, I was so captivated by your presentation. You used such descriptive phrases, so wonderfully done, that I forgot to write any of them down. So I remember being impressed with what you said. I can't give you specific examples, but you did good. I woke up, I remembered what I was supposed to be doing halfway through Graham's presentation, so I was able to jot down a couple of phrases that he used that I really liked. Crystallize the lessons, great phrase. Transactional, terrific word, but of course my all-time favorite word is the rather technical term, icky. As far as the word of the day goes, as has already been pointed out, Kim, I think, takes the trophy home. She used the word of the day 4 times, although 3 times she was referring to our timer, and our timer himself not only used the word of the day, he was the word of the day. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Jim. And yes, it's very hard to take on 2 roles, and we absolutely thank you for doing so. And you mentioned for Ervlyn, I want to say one of the things that I thought that Ervlyn mentioned that was wonderful is that you mentioned, Ervlyn, that you felt that you had to apologize to the chicken. I just want to say that we have a 30-year-old parrot. His favorite food is chicken. We just don't say anything, but I think that was great that you said that. So, next up is tonight's watcher, and tonight's watcher is Imnitin Motion. Please take it away, Imnitin.
Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator. So as the this club is very advanced, so and my role is to watch the people. Most of the people are very responsible and they are very attentive, but I have some observations to use this camera very perfectly. Like April is very far from the camera and she's not using her full posture, full area of the camera usefully. And most of the members, that their camera is mostly off, like Pamila's camera, Zoo's camera, and Deborah Carr camera is mostly off. So because this is a recording, so they have to make the camera on. And some people are, and also Kim's camera is mostly off. And some people are going way towards the camera and backward the camera. So it will also feeling that they are a little bit not attentive to the speeches, like Pamela is moving up and down. And most of the members are very attentive, and I love this club, and I keep on watching you. So over to you, General Evaluator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Imtanen. Next up is our chat monitor, Donna Knight. Please welcome Donna.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. The chat this evening told us that when we're talking, people's minds will go various directions. For example, when we talked about health, somebody suggested watch the movie Bedazzled. Haven't seen it, but I'm going to. And of course, based on the fact that our table topics master said choose up or down, somebody said, hey, there's an old commercial that says, why not go both? And of course, something crossed our minds, clarity and speech. Because when we said boat or airplane, someone heard vote. An idea perhaps to use the chat later and have some table topics posted there. Congratulations, Pam, you have 3 followers. Send me the link and I might just be number 4. See you at the next meeting with another report. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Donna. It's now time for the general evaluation portion of the meeting. What a show. 2 great speakers, 2 awesome evaluators, and a very fun table topic session. Thanks so much for those who stepped up at the last minute. That's definitely a mark of an advanced Toastmaster club. The timing for our meetings is something that online presenters take seriously. Tonight's meeting started on time, in fact, early, and it looks like it will end on time or maybe even early as well. So thanks to all for making that happen. As a relatively new member of 3 months, I remember how welcomed I felt each time I visited online presenters as a guest. Tonight was no exception. This club values its guests, and it shows by the way the guests are greeted. I also appreciate the guests for attending, and I'm looking forward to later hearing to their takeaways from tonight's meeting. Toastmaster of the Day, Mr. Andy Byrne. Andy has been doing this for a very long time, and it really shows. Although I don't follow sports, I feel like Andy was the quarterback of tonight's meeting. He called the plays by telling us what was going to happen, and it made for a winning meeting. Great job, Andy. Table Topics Master of the Day, Jim Barber. Typically, my response to hearing that table topics portion of the meeting is starting is to say to myself, don't pick me. Please don't pick me. Please, please don't pick me. But with Jim's questions tonight, I found myself wishing that I didn't have a role so I could have answered some of his questions. Jim asks questions that people want to answer. Great job, Jim. The only suggestions I have for tonight's meeting relates to Zoom. Since we're an online Toastmasters club, the technical aspects of using Zoom software are very important. One of the Zoom issues that I noticed in today's meeting and past meeting was the blurring of motion. It can erase hair or even limbs like an arm. A green screen can take care of that. Here's an example. In past meetings, I tried to hold up a sign. Hold on a second. Let me turn off what I'm about to show you. In past meetings, I tried to hold up a sign and I had results like this. You can't even tell that I'm holding a sign. And so it was blurred to the point of not being able to see it. But if you use a green screen and then check off I have a green screen, then you'll find that you can see it even when you move it. So this brings me to next week's meeting topic. It's a great segue for the topic, which is being organized by David Carr, Zoom Mastery. This meeting will address how to effectively use the Zoom application, as well as many of the new features now included in the app. I'm really looking forward to it. As you know, tonight's speakers have already been evaluated, but I'd still like to say that the quality of the speeches and the evaluations is nothing short of phenomenal. Thanks to all for a job very well done. Both the speakers and the evaluators demonstrated strong body language, eye contact, and vocal variety. I'd also like to say that I really liked the way tonight's evaluators talked about how the speakers made them feel and what their emotional reactions were to the speeches. I think we all learn a lot when the evaluations are phrased in that kind of context. Now we're on to another exciting part of the evening. Our vote counter, Rick Durling, is going to reveal the voting results for Best Speaker, Best Evaluator, and Best Table Topics for tonight. Please welcome Rick.
Good evening, everybody. I have the results, and they are for Evaluator, Angela Heath, for Table Topics, Rick Durling, and in an almost tie, it was that close, Best Speaker is Evelyn Young. I'll post that in the chat in a moment.
Thank you, Rick. Congratulations to our winners. Big round of applause for everyone. And thanks again for everyone for a very fun and successful meeting. With that, I'd like to pass the stage back to our Toastmaster of the day, Andy Byrne.
Thank you very much, Kim. One of the things that you'll notice that Andre posted his results of the counter report. And for those that don't know where that is, so that you can start using that tool, Andre, tell us a little bit about the tool and what you can do with that tool.
Well, the tool that I'm using, I think you can upload it from our online presenters website. It's available in our resources. Very useful and simple to use spreadsheets where you can place the names of all the participants of the evening, and then you can listen carefully to the so-called crutch words. They can put the numbers, and apart from the spreadsheet, what it does, the amazing bit, I didn't put it, maybe next time, it generates quite an interesting graphs where you can see what areas dominating, what we need to work on. So I skip that bit, I get straight to the point, but for the next time, for our counter role, highly recommend using online presenters, online resources, where you can find this tool and many other tools as well.
Excellent, thank you. I have some great news for everybody. It's the end of the meeting where we have to sign up for the next meeting. Guess what? You have a present. You don't have to sign up for anything for next week, because next week is the Zoom Mastery webinar and the speakers are already chosen. You only have one responsibility for next week. That is to show up and bring some people with you. And that way we can have the opportunity to introduce this club's expertise to others that want to learn. The other thing that I wanted to tell you is that we have left this year, December 20th and December 27th. You can fill out your roles that you want to take if you want to try out the new tool for either the vote counting or the counter tool. It's there. Sign up for it. Learn those new things. You can take it away, not just from our place, but also utilize it in the clubs that you belong to that are brick and mortar or hybrid as well. Lastly, David, do you have anything else you want to say before we close down?
Just thought I would show this. This is a little promo slide. So that's basically the breakdown, Nick, on the showmanship of organizing a large event, Sarinka on keeping it under control, Christian on when and how to use breakout rooms, which we've had sometimes challenges with in this club. And BDC will be talking about how to use a Stream Deck gadget and why you might want to check that out.
Okay, fantastic.
That's the plan.
Do you know which one he's using? The entry, the middle, or the advanced Stream Deck?
I do not. I found out about this about an hour and a half ago. That he was
Okay.
volunteering to do that. It sounds worthwhile to at least learn about a little bit of product placement there. As far as I know, he's not getting a kickback, but
All right.
I could be
And
wrong.
Stream Deck is made by Elegato, which means the cat. Lizzie Ann came in a little bit late, as did Pam. Do you want to speak to the group and say anything before we head into Christmas?
Before Christmas?
Just say your few words. Had you been earlier, you would have said to the group who you are, where you're
Oh, my
from.
name's Pamela Benjamin. I'm in Dallas, Texas, but I come from the north, so I don't have a southern accent. And I wake up really, really early, and so right after right after online presenters, I go to sleep. So that's why I get off right away and I go to bed, because I'm up. And Graham Cairns, somehow he found me in the universe of WordPressness. Okay. How is that possible? I don't have my name on there. I think I have it linked to Facebook. So the world is getting smaller as we speak. Graham found me, and he is a literature. I'm not sure what you teach, but I know you teach literature, and I also have a lot of literature. I don't think I'm at your level, but he is looking at some of my poetry and prose. So I don't know. I don't know
One
how
of the
this is
other
going to
things,
go, but maybe you and I, maybe he'll like what I wrote. I don't know. There's a lot of references to Tolkien and The Hobbit and adventures. So I never used to be a fan of Tolkien's till I started running, and all the journeys that he went when he was an unexpected little guy, not really wanting to go on any little hobbits. And then all of a sudden this crazy wizard comes by, and it makes me think of so many different things in my life. Toastmasters, one of them. And so that's a frequent topic there. But thank you, Graham. Thank you for finding me in the universe of blogs. There's my
Well,
2 cents, Andy.
okay. And during the course of discussion, they talked about the importance of books. And this morning, while watching Morning Joe, I saw an interview with Sir Paul McCarthy's daughter, who is both a photographer, portrait photographer, and chef. And their discussion this morning was about food and her new book called Lyrics, which is a compilation of Paul McCartney's lyrics for all of his songs that he's done. So for those looking for music, or if Evelyn wants to work on her singing, there's a book that she can go to that has all Paul McCartney stuff. Or if you want to look about eating, because Linda McCartney is a vegetarian, and she has all sorts of recipes in there, which supposedly makes people think about vegetarianism in a new way, because her food allegedly tastes very good. At this point in time, David, could you explain to everybody the best way of linking in music so that you can use it as a background for the party?
Me?
Yeah, well, you're the Zoom guy.
Which
But
party?
Nick is the party guy. I'm
The
not
after party.
Oh, now.
Yes, because we
Oh.
have a spare 6 minutes, and we don't have to go and get details on people doing roles next week, because we're doing the presentation on Zoom. So-
Andre strikes me as a fun guy, so maybe Andre.
I'm going to try to do something. Okay. So don't.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So give me like, you gotta give me more like it than 3 seconds for this, for our, okay. So wait a minute.
All right. Do we stop the recording at this point?
Yes,
The
please.
meeting,
Well,
the meeting
actually,
is over, right?
Before you do,
Yeah.
can I please ask a question? Kimberly, can you please tell us what you thought of the meeting? As general evaluator, I'd like to ask. Kimberly Williams?
I'm here. Everything's kind of freezing up. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
I think there was a little bit of connection problem there for a second, but we're just asking for a little bit of feedback on the experience today.
It was a great experience. I enjoyed it as usual. I learned a few new things. I learned about where to find those nice forms, those templates to use. And there was something else I learned, but it's been a couple of things I learned this, not just this session, but every session that I've been to, and everybody is really fun. Thanks
And
for having me.
have you turned in your application to join the club yet?
I just didn't know what to do.
Okay. We're gonna follow up. Where are you located?
I'm in DC.
Okay, I was just there a couple of weeks ago. We will be in touch with you and make sure that you know exactly what to do and how to become a member of the club. We'll bring you forward the next time that we're having that. Kim, are you speaking to somebody over there, or did you want to say something?
No, that's it. I'm so sorry. Thank you so
okay.
much, Kimberly. We are looking
Very
forward to you joining the club, and thank you very much.
You're
No, good
welcome.
initiative. Thanks for speaking up, Kim.